All right. Okay. Good evening. We'll get started. Yeah. As usual over here, what we're gonna do is first thing off, quick disclaimer. Okay. Everything we'll cover over here is for educational purposes, and make sure you're aware that trading involves risks. Okay, and you need to of course understand risk management as you're trading. Okay, and any opportunities that we cover within today's session, okay, it's really for educational purpose. Obviously, we hope that all of you guys are able to make money out of it as well. Okay. Yeah, let's get this done with, and then let's proceed with today's content. Now, as usual, for those of you who are first time new over here, what we do on the Monday session is we quickly summarize some of the things that have happened the previous week. And then we'll look into this week's event calendar. What are some of the things to take note of? And we'll then jump into the technical analysis to look for opportunities within this week to highlight some of those for you guys. And then from there on, we'll have a little Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, just feel free to type it into the chat box. And then from there, we'll answer questions, right? And then before we close off today's session, I'm just going to quickly also remind some of the events that's upcoming together over here with Zenfinix. So that you are aware, and then if you're interested in it, you can also participate and join those events, okay? So with that, let's go to the events calendar and look at what has happened last week, okay? And I think last week was very interesting. Last Monday we did cover, one of the most important data is definitely the CPI year on year, because that's the inflationary data. We get that coming out at 7.7%, which is, in this year, that's the first drop, right? And it's quite significant because from 8.2 it dropped to 7.7. We did see the dollar sell off. We did see the equities market rally. But you need to take note is that it's probably not gonna stop the Fed from hiking. Okay, it's not like inflation is done and the Fed is gonna cut rates next. Okay, it's not. But of course, the market is selling off the dollar because we are starting to see sign that the interest rate has an impact in inflation, and that kind of points towards where the Fed does not need to be too aggressive moving forward in hiking rates. Maybe they will start to slow down the process of it to maybe 0.5 per hike to 0.25 per hike, and then eventually maybe somewhere around mid next year to Q3 next year, we're gonna see then the peak of interest rate and perhaps starting to cut back, right? So this is something I think you need to know as well, because it doesn't mean that that's it and done, right? Which means that the sell-off in the dollar may not necessarily mean that we have seen the top of the dollar. It can simply mean that this is just a bigger pullback or bigger retracement for the dollar, and then of course in terms of the equities market, perhaps it's just a relief rally in an overall bear market still, right? So don't get too excited right now, okay? But of course, that's where the opportunity is, right? Because the dollar has been moving quite nicely, and then equities had some decent bounce, right? Now, looking into this week here, there's still a couple of interesting events that you want to pay attention to. First up, of course, is going to be on Wednesday. We have the Canadian CPI data, okay? There's some other data, but of course, we're going to highlight those that's more important. We have the Canadian side of things. And then after that, we basically don't really have much. Aussie side, we have a little bit of a labor market data, but I don't think that's gonna be like super important. Okay. So over here, I think this week primary focus is probably gonna be the CAD. Okay, so take note of that. If you're trading, be aware that on Wednesday evening, Canadian might have an increased volatility, and then of course that also means opportunities available. Okay. So that's on the events calendar side. Let's take a look at the chart. Okay, now on the dollar index perspective right now, what I'm seeing here is potentially we are likely gonna see a 5-wave development. there are some complexity to this right now. Of course, if you go back to like the simplest form of looking at a chart, this is essentially an impulse. If you get a correction, oops, let me draw nicely. If you get a correction here, then you're still basically looking for downside. Okay, so if you strip away, you take away all the complexity of wave labeling, the essence still work, right? Impulse correction, you look for continuation. But if today you put in a little bit of count here, looking at the dollar at this peak, we might have an internal extension of the wave, right? So basically from this peak here, this can be a big one. This can be a 2. Okay, and essentially within this here, we are developing a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete perhaps a bigger tree, and then we might have a bigger retracement before the next drop to complete the bigger 5-wave structure, right? So that's where the complexity comes in. But again, you don't really need to have all this labeling. You're still able to trade the wave, because if you go back to the essence and the most fundamentals and the foundation of it, you see an impulse, you see a correction, you just short it. Okay, so the dollar here, we do expect a little bit of reaction around 105.7. That's around that 1618 extension. We might see a little bit of pullback to complete, this wave 4, and then we can still look for a sell side. Okay, so what this means is, of course, if you go to the euro dollar, then we're expecting a little bit of pullback here, and then if that's a corrective pullback, we can expect more upside. Okay, and of course, there's quite a bit of variations to this as well. The euro dollar can still turn out to be this as a 1, this is a running flat, this is a third move, and then this completes a bigger corrective pattern, and from here, this can still reject down impulsively, still possible. Okay, so that's also the beauty of Elliott Wave. There are many ways you can look at it. So that's the part where if you're fairly new, it can get very, very complicated. It can get confusing. And hopefully, where I come in is to guide you a little bit, right? Give you some clarity to all this complex stuff. So for me right now on euro dollar, mainly what we want to look out for is how the market is going to develop here, right? If this is going to come down correctively, then we'll still expect a little bit more upside. However, if from here we kind of see a strong rejection down, then we'll start to anticipate that, okay, this is your 1, 2, 3, and then we can still look for more downside from there. Okay, so give it some time. Today market is Monday, it's slow, it's really not going anywhere. It's basically hovering here throughout today. We need to give it more time, right? Because what we have, as I mentioned, we only have one impulse. You don't touch it. Okay, so give it time, see how it develops. A pound dollar. This one looks pretty neat. As of now here, we are looking at this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Potentially a leading diagonal. But leading diagonal doesn't mean here it keeps going. There's a good chance this will pull back still. And we can look for this short-term sell trade opportunity on pound dollar. How to look out for it? One primary target that we look out is somewhere around this low. Okay, so that would be around 1.0930. Of course, not selling now immediately, but what we want to see is a decent rejection of this high. So we have this trend line 1, 2, 3. We have some fib extension. If you can get a rejection, followed by a decent little bit of a consolidation, then that will be the trade to the downside. Okay, for this to happen, you probably need to give it, I would say, by Thursday, the earliest. Okay, so don't rush through. Give it some time, right? But I think pound dollar here is one of the clearest setup in a major pair to keep an eye on for this week. Okay, and then we have the Aussie. Okay, so Aussie over here, we have the market reaching around 1, 2, 3 extension. The market did break off this trend line, but you want to be careful again because this can still be a 1, 2, 3. If you see a strong rejection here, then this can mean more downside. Quite similar to euro. So as of now, give it more time, see how the market develops. Okay, so Aussie dollar and euro dollar kind of similar. Okay, dollar CAD, very nice. We have been talking about this pair, I think, couple of weeks. Last week, the following week before that, we have been highlighting head and shoulder pattern. Very nice play out. Break of it, retrace a bit, and then the next impulse. CPI plays in very nicely last Thursday. This Wednesday we have the cat side of things. So if everything falls nicely, and then what we're gonna get is a very nice little consolidation. CPI on Canadian comes in positive, push the cat down, we get this target done. Okay, this is ideal, right? So if you have any sell trade running from here, then of course you want to manage your position along the way. If you don't have any trade yet, my suggestion is this week go to the 1 hour chart. Okay, wait until Canadian CPI closer towards that date. If you can see a tiny bit of consolidation here, that's your potential sell trade. Okay, you can take the break, leverage it with the event, right? So kind of time it together with the news, and then that becomes your potential trade to the downside. Okay, so this one quite straightforward, right? I think you don't need to spend too much time on that. Direction still down, target is quite clear. Setup might come to you in the next 1 or 2 days, right? Look at it on a 1 hour chart. The dollar yen, very nice as well. Last week, if I recall, I mentioned, the possibility of how this can play out. We saw that this seems to be potentially also developing into a 1, 2, 3, something like that. We also cover how this can turn into a running flat. Okay. So last week CPI did send the dollar down. Very clear. So right now what we see is a clearer structure on the dollar yen. We have this as a peak, we have 1, and then this is a 1, 2, 3, a running flat. This is the third wave down. So this is quite similar to dollar index. Okay, we kind of expect a little bit of a wave-fall correction and then one more push down. So the direction is quite clear. What we are waiting for basically is this consolidation to develop, and then we take this down again. Okay, so dollar related, generally we are bullish, except for euro dollar. We want to give it a little bit more time to prove to us what it wants to develop. Aussie dollar here, we also want to give it a little bit more time. Okay, so these two are kind of similar. And then pound dollar, we're looking for that sell, right? So it's kind of a bit counterintuitive to the dollar index. Right? So these are the major pairs potential. Okay, I think if you want to focus on a few, the clearest would be pound dollar right now, dollar Canadian to the downside, right? So this two to me is the clearest as of now. Okay. If you take a look at gold, very nice. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you actually join in our gold trading workshop. Okay, physical workshop that we covered once, I think in KL, once in Penang. Okay, for those of you who managed to join in that workshop, you know why we have been looking at gold, and then I really hope you are able to capitalize on that if you attended that sharing. Even if you did not, then I hope you also catch it along the way. It's not like the clearest setup, but between this area here, you kind of get a little bit of a breakout opportunity. If you have yet to join into the buy trade on gold, don't rush yet. Same thing here, give it a bit more time. If you can see something like that, that's your again breakout opportunity, right? Gold here, the direction is clear. Okay, focus on upside. There's no reason to be selling gold right now. It has break some very major trend line as well. We covered on this before. Any retracement that is coming is actually your buy opportunity, right? And the upside on gold is just going to be huge. Okay, now the dollar can strengthen back, but gold can still rally up, right? Because when we look at XAU USD, it's not just about the dollar. But it's both. Okay, so the dollar can strengthen, but gold can strengthen even more than the dollar, and this chart will still go up. Okay, we have some potential news or event that can really can provide the catalyst for gold, and that's coming from the crypto market. Okay, so if you're following on crypto recently, we have like the FTX, right? Very nice play from Binance. CZ or CZ, okay, depending on how you call him. Conspiracy theory over here is, first off, he actually made an announcement of selling the FTT token. Okay, that kind of got everyone panicked, and then starts to liquidate their position on FTT. And then from there, FTX faces some problem. And then Binance kind of play the good guy game where it comes in and say that, okay, we might buy over to solve their problem. But then after that, no. So conspiracy theory over here is they're basically, from my perspective, right, they're basically trying to get rid of their competitor. Okay. And because there's no regulation in the crypto space, right, they essentially can do anything. Okay, they can really play the pump and dump game, and it's a so small market that if today you have sufficient, capital, you can really do it, right? And I'm pretty sure Binance have that capability, right? And then that got a spiral effect, and then right now people are talking about crypto.com, talking about Coinbase and things like that. Now, why I mention this, because again, coming back to the principle of money flow, if there is some fear in the crypto side of things, the money is gonna get out of the crypto market, it needs to go somewhere. Okay, it can go into the equities, it can go into FX, it can also come into the gold market. Okay, and that's the part where it might provide some catalyst to push gold prices higher. Okay, so have all this, put them together and look at the market holistically. Okay, so that's on gold. Upside, very, very clear cut in terms of direction. S&P, we have a very decent impulsive move on Thursday and Friday last week, because again on CPI, right? And we always share this with you in the relationship of macro liquidity, how interest rate would have an impact in liquidity, and how would that have an impact in the equities market as well, right? So this is where you can see the direct application, okay, where CPI inflation data comes in, the expectation is the Fed doesn't need to hike too aggressively, and then that immediately flow into the equities market where the S&P rally, right? Not only S&P, but generally equities rally. And then now we have the talks as to, are we seeing the bottom in the equities, or are we just seeing a rally within the bear market? To me, if you're trading, doesn't really matter, okay? Because if the market is going up, you trade it to the upside. If the market eventually comes down, you trade it to the downside. But if you're of course doing long-term investing, then my answer to that is again doesn't matter, because you're doing long-term investing. So at the end of the day, you realize that all this debate, I call them very, very academics. It's interesting to share opinions and different thoughts, but at the end of the day, you do realize that it really doesn't matter. Okay, so how we look at this here on S&P is very clear. As of today, we have a 1, 2, 3, and then of course we have this reset. So this is a complete set, and then right now we're anticipating another 1, 2, 3, right? So as of now, we look at the chart. If the market gives us a corrective pullback, we take this buy trade up. Okay. Overall, if you look back, look at the higher time frame on the daily, we are still in the bearish channel, right? And we saw this happen before, and then it dropped. So this one here, you can do something like that, and this can still drop, right? But again, as I mentioned, we don't care, because if today you are trading, you look for this first. You look for the upside first, if that's where the opportunity is, right? You buy it, and then if it hits this top, you take profit. If it wants to come down, you sell it again. Okay. So that's the beauty about trading, right? If you're long-term investing, don't really care, right? Because if let's say this hits the top, you get back down, this is a better price for you to add in for longer term move. Okay. So as I mentioned, right, whether you are trading or you're long-term investing, doesn't really matter, okay? Because if you have the right framework and the right approach, doesn't really matter what the market is doing, you can prepare for it. Okay, so that's on the S&P side of things. Crypto, right? So that's where we see that drop because of a FTX, right? The fear in the crypto scene. Short term wise, if you're looking at Bitcoin, I think you have this opportunity short term, potentially a 1, 2, 3. But if this is going to develop into a flag, then we can still see more downside, right? Right now the question is, with FTX, the third largest crypto exchange also can go into such a problem. The second largest is Coinbase. Okay, and then following that right now is crypto.com. A lot of people are now in doubt, like which exchange is safe. Lucky, I'm not sure how many of you have an account with Binance. Lucky enough, because I opened up an account with Binance like some time back. Even I didn't trade, I just opened that account. I still have it with me right now, but I understand that if today you are based in Malaysia or Singapore, if you do not have a Binance account right now, you can't go and open it already. Okay, because of Malaysia and Singapore citizenship, they don't accept. So this part here is where you need to definitely be aware of platform risks. Okay, when I mean platform risk here is really what happened like FTT. FTX, right? It's not just about the price movement in the crypto, but it's also when things like that happen, there's really nothing much you can do about it as a retail trader, right? So do factor that risk in when you're looking at crypto. Be prepared that you can literally lose everything, even if you are prepared for long-term holding, right? So for example, if you have an account in FTX, you have some capital in it, whether you're holding on Bitcoin, Ethereum, or just USDT, it's gone. Literally, they use this hacking, news to say that all money is gone, right? Whether is it really hacked or what, we won't know, but there's really nothing much you can do about it. Okay, so be aware of such risks. Okay. Now, to me, Binance is one of the safest now, is simply because they are the largest exchange. The thing is, as I mentioned, in an unregulated market environment, it's really a game of who has the biggest capital, right? Or whose pocket is deeper enough to play this game, right? And obviously Binance has the most power right now in the exchange world. Okay, so that's something that I just want to share in terms of my perspective. Okay, and so that you're aware, right? You are aware of it, so that when you're decide to go into crypto, you know of this risk. Cool. Okay, so those are some of those that I want to cover. And one of the other ones here that I just want to highlight quickly is Euro Australia. This pair here has an opportunity for a short-term sell. Okay, I think we briefly mentioned this last week as well. We kind of have this little nice channel. We have this one move down, second move up. So we're expecting this to come down as well. Short-term downside to complete WXY. Right now, if you go to the 1 hour chart, we kind of have this developing. Okay, so if I were to just draw again a channel in, we have something like this. You put in a little bit of a fibs, just a simple expectation of 1:1. We can wait for a decent move up correctively and then look for that sell. Okay, so Euro Odd, for those of you who are trading on the crosses, you can add this into your watch list to keep an eye on, right? Maybe by Wednesday or Thursday, you might get that setup coming to you. Good. Okay. So with that, let's take a look at some of the questions that we have, right? So first one over here I see is notice that Pound New Zealand is very wide in terms of spread today. Yeah, that is something not I mean, it's not uncommon, or I would say it's quite common if you're looking at currencies that have New Zealand in it, especially on the Monday market. Okay, so you do realize that I tend not to touch too much on New Zealand as well, because I realized that recently New Zealand spread can be quite crazy. Okay, yeah, so I mean, I just want to highlight on that. It's not unusual. Okay, so that's also something you want to factor in. So you realize I don't really touch a lot on New Zealand related. Good. Question over here I see as well. What do I think about oil? Do we still have a bearish wave? Let's take a look at it. Yeah, the answer is yes. I'm still expecting one more drop. From the Elliott Wave perspective here, this move up, okay, this portion here is not impulsive, right? And we have the expectation of 3 wave. So what we are expecting here is a 1, 2, 3, right? So we kind of still expect this drop. Okay, so overall nothing has changed, right? And we have this very nice break of the trend line, retest of it, 50% fit. So the overall direction, I'm still expecting downside. But of course, if this comes down very slow, then you want to just be careful, right? Because this can then you do something like that. Okay? I mean, there's still some different possibilities where you need to monitor the market and see how it develops, right? Because every day the market develops, it gives you more clue as to what it wants to turn out to be. But for now, this is the primary forecast. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's on crude oil. So I see another question here asking, is yen starting to be bullish? I mean, the dollar yen, definitely we are looking at downside. But dollar yen here, it can be primarily because of the dollar weakness. If you want to look at the yen, and you look at most of the other yen pairs like euro yen, pound yen, Aussie yen, they're not really that bearish. Okay, I mean, the pair is not that bearish, which means the yen is not really strengthening. Okay, so yeah, so overall, if you take a look at all these charts right now, right, in fact, it's doing a little bit of a three-wave structure, right? So like this, 1, 2, 3. Pound yen here as well potentially turn into something like that. So long term, on the bigger scale perspective, I don't see the yen strengthening still. Okay, from a fundamental point of view, the yen is still one of the more dovish central banks, right? Which is bearish in the perspective of yen, right? I mean, yeah, there are news that the BOJ might intervene and things like that. But one thing that I don't really like about Bank of Japan is they never really share much information, and then they just decide to suddenly do something about it, and then the market just move. Okay. Another one is SMB, which is Swiss National Bank. Also something similar, right? They don't like to announce things, and then they just suddenly make a decision, and the market is surprised, and then there's a huge move in the market. Yeah, so if you are trading on, yen and the franc, these are some of the unique characteristics you need to be aware of too. Good. Okay, one more question I see here is the Euro Canadian. So to update a little bit on Euro Canadian, very nice little tag at the bottom at 3290. So as of now here, the update analysis will based on this bottom. And let me see overall. EuroCAD, you want to be careful. We're reaching somewhere around this peak, right? I mean, this area here you can see around 3750. Price is around there. So you want to see how it reacts off this level. Okay. Ideally, if you want to look for a buy, you want this to break above and does a consolidation. Then that will be a very nice little buy. If we see a crawl pattern here, then this means that there's a good chance this will come back down first, right? So this requires patience and time. You want to give time the market to see how it develops around 1.3750 area. Okay, so not something I will be paying too much attention, because from a 4-hour chart perspective, for something to develop here, probably is going to take out the entire of this week. Good. Okay, question here about spread. Does the spread always get wider on Mondays? Yeah, especially on the opening of Monday, right? Because spread has to deal with liquidity. So market new week at the opening hours, the liquidity is lower, the spread will be wider. Okay, so that is something quite common. And if you take into like New Zealand, is already one of the less traded currency, or I would say the liquidity of New Zealand is lower. The spread of the New Zealand can go very high. Okay, so that's something quite common on Monday market open. Okay, so just be aware of it. I mean, I've seen spread on New Zealand like 30-40 pips. Okay, quite common. Okay, I mean 100 pips may not be every other week. But if you go and monitor it every Monday, as the market just opens, your New Zealand pair, the spread can go like 30-40, and that's like the norm. Okay, so just be aware of it. Good. So I hope so far so good. Okay, you kind of get an idea like what are the things to focus for the week. Okay, and yeah, so before we close off today's session over here, quick one to update some of the events that's upcoming. We have one event that's upcoming on Wednesday, okay, which is in 2 days time. Okay, the date here is 16th of November. GMT plus 8 is 8 p.m. right? So if you're based in Malaysia and Singapore, that's 8 p.m. in the evening. What we're gonna talk about is trading the Hagen Ashi wave. Okay. I'm gonna share with you a little technique to trade the indices. Okay, this is mainly gonna be S&P 500 and the DAX, using Hagen Ashi candle, right? And then of course we're gonna add on some layers on that. For those of you who are interested, make sure you do register for it. If you're on Zoom, okay, just reach out to the support team from Zenfinix. If you're on YouTube, again, every session I have a description link below which leads you to Zenfinix WhatsApp. Okay, so if you click onto that, it'll bring you to the WhatsApp. From there, you can actually ask them and then register from there. Okay, it's gonna be happening on Zoom, so you need to get the link to join in Zoom. Okay, so that's the one. And then the other dates that we have is on the 23rd of November. This one haven't really confirmed yet, but tentatively that's gonna be it. It's gonna be 8 p.m. but this is gonna be a physical offline workshop in Chinese, right? This is gonna be based in KL, so this is more for those of you who are based in Malaysia and in KL. We're gonna have an offline physical session on the 23rd of November in the evening, right? The topic on this is gonna be on gold. Okay, so we have been sharing on trading gold strategy in English for 2 times, one in KL sometime back and then another time in Penang. So this time around we're gonna do it in Chinese for gold, right? So if you are based in KL and if you're interested in this, do register for that event too. Okay. Cool. Okay, so someone asked, Emmanuel asked, in terms of like the Zoom link, just reach out to Zenfinix team. They'll be able to support you on that, right? Because I also get the same link from them. Okay, all this Zoom links and webinars links, you need to get from them because I also get from them. I don't have it with me. Okay, good. Okay, so that's all from me for today's session over here. Okay, so yeah, thanks for dropping in the WhatsApp link. So again, if you click it, you can reach out to them directly for support. Okay, those of you on YouTube, just go to the description. There's a link that I put already, right? WhatsApp. Okay, click on that. It'll bring you to WhatsApp. You can reach out to Zenfinix directly. Good. Okay, so that's all from me for today. All the best to you guys who are trading as well. Okay, I hope today's session again give you some insights, some help for your plan for the week. All the best, manage your risk, and with that, we'll see you guys in the next session. Yeah. Okay, bye bye.